What do I ask people when they say that?
What does Asian mean?
What does Asian mean? Now, they can't tell me what Asian means. If they can't tell me what Asian means, they can't tell me what I am. The only person that can tell me what I am is I. That's it. If anybody's telling me what I am, we got us a problem. Matter of fact, you know what that reminds me of? You meet the Buddha on the road, what you supposed to do?
You said you meet the Buddha on the road?
Meet Jesus on the road, what are you supposed to do?
Kill him.
Supposed to kill him. Kill him dead. Where are you supposed to meet Jesus or Buddha or Krishna or anybody else if you're going to meet him? Where are you supposed to meet him? Where? If you're ever going to meet him, where are you supposed to meet him?
In the mirror.
In the mirror.
In the mirror. That's it. Inside of yourself. All right now.
Right, Pearl.
All right now, you go look. Now listen. If we start this time, you gonna do it?
Yes.
What? Yes. What?
Yes, sir.
All right, we're gonna do this now. I'm serious now, cause I'm not gonna hound you. I ain't gonna ride you. I ain't gonna preach to you. Nothing. I'll show you. If you do it, we're gonna roll. I promise you. All right. All right.
Thank you.
All right.
You're welcome.
Yeah. What does that ask you? Yeah, I know my brain don't work right. What?
Jesus mirror.
Yeah. You gotta stay. It's gotta be inside of you.
Right.
Otherwise, you're not gonna meet him. You gotta be inside of you. And if you meet him and it happens to be a male, you still got a problem.
Wait a minute, what? I'm sorry.
All of your life, you've been saying God, He, right?
Most of my life, yes.
And so every time you say God, He, you just created another problem for yourself.
Right, I'm not a he.
You're not a He, but why is God a He? Because of the same indoctrination set up by the same people who would try to make sure that you never learn how to learn.
May I ask you a question?
Yes.
Okay, can we go back to Asia? I'm sure that there really is a definition.
Okay. I'm sorry. What was you about to ask?
No, isn't Asia the same as?
Yes. 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 He's giving you the
That's
definition.
exactly what I was looking
Now,
for.
he's giving you the definition, or as far as how you can figure out how to define the word for yourself.
Right.
So now, me personally,
Would not have done
I
that.
wouldn't do what he just
Right.
did. So he is actually trying to help y'all, and he's really concerned and the whole bit. But he had to take years to learn it because I didn't necessarily just tell him.
Right.
But that's what it is. It's same as. Now, how do you get same as? How can you figure that out for yourself so you know what it is? You said you were practicing your etymology.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you do it?
The IA
What about the IA?
would mean land. When you see
Okay,
it-
good. So now, how did you get that?
I mean, I got it. I learned it from class, but
Okay, you learned it from class,
But I've
but you
been
had to
able
have
to-
read it somewhere.
well, if you look at a lot of the other continents, Australia, they end with I. So
Russia, Germania, you can keep going on and on and on, they all end with an IA. And there's a reason at the end of an IA. Where did you get that information from? By IA.
a class.
No.
That's right. No,
You couldn't
that's
have
right.
got it from class.
That's
No,
right. Why
well,
not? Why couldn't he have gotten it from
The
class?
start was class. I didn't, I never thought about IA.
Right? But you when we come to class, we are exposed to some bits of information. Then we go home.
And do the work.
Right.
So you didn't learn it in class.
You got
You
exposed
learned
in
it.
class.
Yeah.
Yeah, your
The
own
point is-
independent researcher.
Right.
Like in
So what particular book do I try to get all of you to read that would help you to understand what IA is
No.
relative to identification of land?
that alphabet.
It is called the esoteric structure. The esoteric structure of the alphabet. If you write this down, you gotta promise me, if you write this down, that you're not gonna go look for this book. You're going to call me and ask me to send you the book when I think you're ready for it.
Okay.
All right? But, so write it down now.
Along that same line,
Okay.
because I'm still trying to figure out why some people say America and they reference America as a she.
Mhm.
And so the way I've been studying is to look at the word first. So some people say America with at the end of the word. Then I heard you say in class, like you go to Cuba, you say Cubanos and Cubana.
All right, so
I'll just put
the
context
reason
together.
America is a she relative to the word is because at the end of that word is the letter A. If it was an O, it would be a he. It would be masculine. It's just based on the structure of a language, the grammar of a language. But also sometimes ships are called she rather than he. And you have to understand how gender is set up in different languages and with different people.
I got you.
You follow me?
So that's what I was trying to say on the same line within that book. Well, I know I didn't get past the first page.
Of?
Esoteric structure of Albert Pike.
No. No, the one that I'm speaking about now, you're right. Albert Pike is the dot within the circle. That's Albert Pike. Alvin Boyd Kuhn is the esoteric structure of the alphabet. Now, you have to read these books and not read them with the intent on thinking, I know what it's talking about. You have to read these books and let it point you to what you need to learn about. Eventually, you'll read about the Theosophical Seal and all of the work that went into developing an understanding of the symbols that went into Theosophy. By doing this, it allows you to understand symbols as they've been developing over the last few thousand years. Only by using what is developed over the last few thousand years can you ever hope to understand what's going on. But if you just make things up and you just out the clear blue, you're going to be doing the same thing white folks did when they set this up, as nonsensical as it is. Understand something. The core of what they set up, it's working for them.
Correct.
You understand? But most people that are looking at it, they think they know what's going on and don't have a clue.
Question. So, going back to my original question with regards to systematically thinking for myself, I have the question of, then are you presenting us, say for example with the alphabet book, and now I understand the prefix suffixes that I want to study more, and it's just kind of a matter of just keeping coming to class and I'll be given bits and pieces and then I go and just do the work on it? Or is it more structured than that, where there's a syllabus that I can possibly kind of get some structure?
Yeah, so the thing that's different about learning here as opposed to maybe many of the other places that we learn, like college for example, is that there is no agenda.
Right.
There is no particular content that we have to get across, but your questions, your interests, drive your process, and then you come here for support and for guidance. And we all kind of come at it in different ways depending on our own situation. But the main thing is the tools. The tools that we share here and the processes that we learn here. But we have to own those things,
Understood.
And that's our process.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not like you learned this, now you're at this level. You
Yeah, and I guess I wasn't correct. And I wasn't necessarily looking for that.
Yeah.
I
And
think
it's not even like, here are these gradations
or this tool even.
These tools are, there may be no particular way, you have no particular order. There may be an order just because some things are more rudimentary than others.
Right.
But
and that's what I guess I am so accustomed to. I'm accustomed to learning the root so that I can then branch out, and
which is fine, but don't, it's good, but just, maybe be a little bit looser with it. It's not so
cut and dry.
It's not so cut and dry, because it's really, you have to bring yourself to it. So we can't make it, you know what I mean?
there's a, and I hope I'm not going too far afield of what we're talking about. You know, you ever heard of Jacob's ladder?
Yes.
Tell me what
I
it
don't
is.
know, but I know what it is.
Okay. I know you know. Then we're dealing with that concept that the truth can be boxed up in the.
Right.
There's no such thing when you're talking about truth. We have to talk about truth, and then when we talk about it, we have to learn how to true something. If we can't true it for ourselves, we're not dealing with truth. So now we have to go through the processes of learning how to true something. So now we have to learn Jacob's ladder. What did they teach you about Jacob's ladder?
Is this the same thing as the story where he climbs to get closer to God?
Good. Now how many steps did he climb up? How many steps are on Jacob's ladder? And starting from the bottom, you have to understand that in the physical plane, there are only 4 steps. So now when you look at 4 steps, you'll find 4 in a whole lot of things. Fantastic Four. I don't care what you look at, you're going to find 4.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got 4 steps that you must learn about learning. And one of them is the fact that in order to learn, you first must acquire information. Yes.
So sometimes I mean in conversations with people and they'll say, well, where do I start? And sometimes I say, well, don't you have to start with a thought you've been thinking about and deprogram from that first, or just examine it, because it could be true. The thought could be true, but just examine the thoughts, then go from there.
That could be that's a good strategy to start.
But you have to be willing to start with, well, let me see that. You have to, it's just a lot of stuff you got to do. But that's what I'm saying. Does the person have to start with the thought? Because they just can't come in and say,
that was the cause of it all.
It's the cause of it all. Because they can't come in and say, well, I'm going to start learning something else, because you'll be just piling stuff on top of them.
And it gets chaotic. It gets crazy. Yes.
So is it crazy to assume that when you're working with a 4-year-old that you don't create some type of format though for them to be able to, build upon? Does that make sense? And I know that I'm not trying to be lazy, intellectually lazy here. I guess what I'm saying is that, and this is probably the method that I've learned to try to learn things, and so that's where I'm struggling against myself.
Here's what I'm going to tell you. By the time she and her brother arrived, we had already been working a number of years to learn something. Correct. By the time they arrived, when she and her brother arrived, there were others just getting there. And so then we had a laboratory that we could work with for a period of years. So all of the things that we learned from that laboratory, now by the time he showed up, and before his child was born, we had a way to explain to him and to show him different recorded things that we've already been through, that he could start learning the process to teaching from birth.
What works?
His child. And one thing we wanted to make sure that he constantly taught that child from birth not to believe anything and not to accept any so-called religion from any person. He's got to develop and mature well enough so that when the time comes, he can make choices for himself. But back to the 4 steps.
And that's Mr. Bell's question too.
And hopefully, if we've been recording this correctly over a period of time, we're addressing Mr. Bell's question, which was a very valuable question. I think you helped him. But I think there were 4 initial steps. If you want to start the process of learning, you have to learn how to acquire information. You can call it data, whatever, but you've got to learn how to acquire it. Once you learn how to acquire information, now you've got to learn how to let that information become knowledge. And just because you now are starting to acquire knowledge does not mean that you know.
Exactly.
All right? So you go from information, and once you get enough information, you can arrive at knowledge. Once you get to the point of knowledge and you are working with this in the way that you're learning how to do this, you can arrive at wisdom. Now, if you do not arrive at wisdom, you are never going to make it to the most important part. The most important part is the part that Shlomo says in the Bible. What's his name? Solomon says, above all things, get what?
Understanding.
That's the fourth part of this. You want to arrive at understanding.
Isn't these 4 steps the
Tetragrammaton. Now, Tetragrammaton. But understand, we can suggest that these 4 steps are now what we would call the clerical part of the Tetragrammaton. But understand, until you go in and do the study, the rabbinical study that you would have to do based on what they're doing, you can't say for sure. But what we know is, outside of the rabbinical study, outside of the Catholic canon or whatever, what we have are the basic rudiments of learning. The basic rudiments say that the first thing you got to get if you want to learn is information. You got to let information become knowledge. You got to let knowledge become wisdom. And now, if knowledge becomes wisdom, then with that wisdom, now you can get what?
Understanding.
But without the wisdom, you'll never get the understanding. And only if you're wise enough to be good. Take one of the O's out of good. What do you got? So only if you're wise enough to actually become that. If you were made in its image, or if you came here in the nature of that thing, then that's what you're striving to become. So if you become that, then in fact you can arrive at understanding. But if you do not get that, you will 9 times out of 10 arrive at evil. If you arrive at evil, evil is the opposite of good. And 9 times out of 10 you will be at ignorance. You will be at the veil. You will be at that point that you can't really accomplish this. Now, going past that basic elementary step-by-step 4-step process, now you want to learn methods that have developed over thousands of years for you to get there. So the first thing that you must learn is etymology. The reason that you have to learn and teach yourself etymology, and not do like Brandon does, because Brandon plays with this, but get serious. And if you get serious and teach yourself the science of etymology, then it will allow you to teach yourself the science of epistemology. If you teach yourself those 2 sciences, it will allow you to get to the 3rd science, ontology. Who's going to explain to me what ontology is without pulling it up on the board? Or without looking in your dictionary?
I thought ontology was on the surface.
Good. That's it. The way you do that, what you just did, is just by the word itself. Because I'm going to say that that's not going to be what you're going to find in that book if you look it up. All right. But what he did was, it says onto. All right. The study of the onto is the study of the surface. So you basically learn how to do this with words. So now you can learn how to pass the test without studying for the test. You can look at the question and you can pass the test. All right, if you learn to do this. So number 3 is your ontological research methods that you have to learn. Then number 4 is what?
Etiology.
Etiology. Good. Did you study that? You know what that is? You know how to do it?
I don't know if I can explain it. The cause. Trying to, figuring out the
What
cause.
about the cause?
Figuring out the cause of a...
And what? The cause and what?
An effect.
The cause and effect. So how do you do that? You have to go in and you have to learn different things like what is it when something can't be changed?
Permanent.
Irrevocable.
Good, permanent, irrevocable. But what I'm looking at is You have certain laws that are immutable, and then you have certain laws that are what?
Immutable.
Right. Right. Now you got to go in and you got to study and you got to figure out how these laws work. What are the laws that we're talking about? Now we've got to look at these laws so that we can get to the natural laws that we're accredited, that we say that are part of what God has allowed us to be in our existence, versus the laws that man have created de facto. You have de jure and de facto. And natural law is de jure. Man-made law is de facto. Now you've got to go through the processes of understanding these things. These things are what they've built a society on, that you were born into, and you don't have any clue about any of it. So you have immutable and you have mutable. You have cause and effect. Now you got to go in and you got to figure it out. What was the cause of your existence and what's the effect? What are you actually producing because of your existence? How did your existence come to be? You know, this was so weird. You got black folks trying to prove something. I think when we were growing up, what did your grandmother say? You had to be what?
Twice as good, 10 times better.
Ain't that something? Don't y'all remember that? Yeah, well, why did you have to be twice as good and 10 times better?
Your skin.
What about your skin?
The color was a disqualifier.
Of what? By who? Who has the power to disqualify you because of your complexion?
Boss.
So-called white folks.
So-called white folks have that power, then it's because you gave it to them.
That's right.
It's because you gave it to them. Now, do they keep having that power over you, or do you do what it takes?
You do what it takes to overcome.
To overcome it. But now we don't need to think that I have to be twice as good or 10 times better in order to exist, because you're already here. And if you are here on this planet, how could you not be the one? That's impossible. But yet, because we don't understand things, we get here and we live a life that causes us to exist in such a way where we might as well not have ever been here. That's nonsense. With all the power that you have, you're supposed to make your existence actually mean something for others in such a way that just because of you and because thou art, I am. And if thou art and I am, we are. So Asia means same as. And how do you figure that out? What is AS? The word AS, what is that? In English, it is as. Now you have to do is look in your dictionary and look at what the word is, and it will tell you, then you put that together with IA. Now, if someone says, well, Asia wasn't English, there was no such language as English when the word Asia came into existence. That's right. But now you are going to learn the alphabet in such a way where you can actually transliterate this for yourself. Whether it's your name, whether it's a hieroglyphic, whether it's a cuneiform, no matter what it is, you're going to know how to figure it out for yourself. And that's what is important. You having the power to do it for yourself.
That's what I want to say. Say that question again. Where you was getting at? You.
Me? Okay.
When you was asking about Taj.
Oh, I was trying to understand if, in fact, although you were explaining, Jessica, that you come to class, you get bits and pieces of things, and you take it home, and you actually build upon it. You do the work. My hope and my question pertain to Taj, because I'm like, okay, so he's 4.
Mm-hmm.
Truly, I can give him something, and he can go home and take it home and work on it. but more than likely it's a little more structured.
It is.
And so that's what I was hope that was where the question really was.
Okay.
And I appreciate the 4 basic steps to learning. I appreciate learning methods and what you learn first, because it does in fact help me to direct my energies. Truth be told, I understand exactly what you're saying about going home, and it is a process. I know you won't be around forever, as you keep telling me. And I know I won't. So I want to...
But you're going to learn, I hope, the same way that I'm hoping she's learning, and the same way that I'm hoping
Right.
she's learning. Because if you learn this the way that I think you're learning, then I will be around forever.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, and what he had to go through in order to learn how to work with this child.
Right.
See, because the average parent doesn't work with the children. The average parent they just put them in front of a TV. When the time comes, they're old enough, they send them off to what they call school. They don't know what's going on, but he had to learn how to actually translate something to the child in order to get him to do something, because the child couldn't even speak English when you get started. He couldn't even speak English. So now they've got to develop a particular kind of bond that where the child wants to get something done because it makes him happy. The average parent's not doing that. The average parent is just leaving it up to those people that we believe care about us in the state legislature, you know, in the schoolhouse.
And the television.
Or up to the TV. Ain't none of that working, you know. But understand, just a little bit you know how to do. Matter of fact, have you ever looked up goodbye?
No, sir.
Look at her right quick. Tell her what goodbye is while she's looking it up. Goodbye. You know the word goodbye. Where's your dictionary? In your dorm room. That ain't gonna work.
And then another thing, a lot of people think that what we're doing is teaching Todd's opinions.
Right.
And that's one thing that you gotta stay away from.
Isn't that copy with you?
Is what? That's exactly what's there. Now, at the same time, if you do not open the dictionary, the average person will not open the dictionary. When we tell them, they won't open the dictionary. If they never open the dictionary, they'll never see what it is. And what it is a contraction of God be with you. And that contraction is mispronounced as goodbye because they couldn't say God be with you. First of all, they couldn't say "Al con Dios" in the first place, in the language that it comes from. Then in English, they could not say God be with you, or God be with ye, is actually how it's set up. All right? Now, it now became a contraction, and yet they want to say something about how I talk or how you talk. And that you were the one that developed this language, you know, that they call Ebonics. I say it came from Steffi and Little Abner and them. With this that you're looking at, goodbye. But you don't know that it's saying God be with you because you've never learned this the whole time you've been learning. And you've been learning English ever since the first grade. And you never knew that. Ain't that something? And yet we know every damn thing. This is weird. This is weird. Some of you want to, go ahead, tell me. I know it's in your brain. I can feel it. What is it?
I'm just, you know, just.
But it's a step-by-step process.
Yes.
All right. Now, it is not a syllabus. It is
No.
not. It is not anything that comes with, you know. Yes.
All right.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, you know, it is more structured with the children. That's because the children bring less stuff to it, less resistance, you know, less
Opinion.
anxiousness, less
Right.
less drive. I have to get here, and I just, you know, less kind of goal orientation. So we can fill them up more with things that we think are important for them to learn. And it may-
Nothing has to be erased.
Yeah, and
You
it may
have to
be
erase
that,
that.
you know, if you come and you're more empty and more open, then we can put more in you. If you come and you're already full of stuff, an Asiatic black man or whatever, we'll work with you on that. So it depends on where you are, but I do think, from what little I know of you, that, you know, you're ready to just be filled up with everything that, you know, we want to throw your way. And that's good.
Which gives you a power to accomplish some of the things that you're trying to get done. You know, see, a lot of times, like when you don't even know I'm doing it. A lot of times I'm watching them damn fools when y'all are interacting together, and you don't have a clue to what they're doing. And then I'll interject, I'll cut in, and only reason I'm doing it is because I'm trying to get you out of the middle of some nonsense. Because that's all that is. They know absolutely nothing. Only thing they know about is Jesus. And then when you ask them about what it is they say they know about, you ask them a simple question, they don't have a clue. You know what Deuteronomy is, right?
Deuteronomy?
Yeah, what is it?
It's just not in my head.
And she's witnessed me ask this question.
Deuteronomy, the book.
Which
The
book?
Bible. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, fourth book. Fifth book.
Okay, but what are you saying when you say the word? And this is what's so weird about the Bible. You see the word Deuter is actually French. How did it get there? Just this word, Deuteronomy. Because you're actually saying Deuter and you're saying know me. So Deuter is second on the
12.
yeah. You all right? So Deuter is second. So he says second law. That's what you're actually saying. Now, how did you get in French second law in a book that actually comes together in English?
Things are complex.
Boy, that's really complex.
Things are complex.
You know, so these are questions that you ask the people who say that they know about the Bible. They ain't got a clue. They don't even know what they're saying out of their mouths. You ask one of them, okay, no problem. What's epistles mean? What's epistles, darling? I know you're supposed to know. Yes, go ahead.
No, I'm still stuck on Deuter.
Deuter is second.
It's Deuter, Deuce.
Deuce? That's right.
Wow.
All you're speaking is, you're speaking with an English accent, but you're saying French words.
Wow.
You know, when you say introduce, what is introduce? So now you have to break apart intro,
Which is in.
and then you have to break apart deuce. So what?
Intro was in.
Yeah, intro is in, and you're bringing something in, something together, and you're bringing two together.
Two together. Wow. Wow.
You follow me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But these are the tricks that I'm trying to get Brandon to pay attention to, so that you can really learn these techniques in the science, because this is a science. Once you know this, you have the capacity to put together a time machine in your brain.
But Erica,
Yes, ma'am.
how many years? 30 years plus, 32, 33 years. It's only in the last 2 years, and in a year and a half, that I started to actually looking at a word and wondering what that word means based on its composition. It has
Right.
taken, I'm just telling you, that's how long it took.
And the way she got started, the way she really got started, it was years before she actually just accidentally looked at, and I used to have like 5 or 6 books open, and one day she just picked one of them up. But I was never trying to push her to do this or anything. She did it on her own. And then once she read that and started, what's your favorite question for the preachers now? Really, she developed a question for the
And
preachers.
when they come at me, what is the Eucharist? And what is the other word? Transubstantiation.
Right, so then,
Well,
then
when I
she
start
started
talking to
asking
preachers,
them
they
that.
can't tell me what that means. Come back, we can talk about it.
EU.
We'll look that up.
Huh?
I was going on the board with Taj. What does EU mean?
Good. Good, you. Now understand, once we can get just the basic understandings of something,
Right.
now we can get to other things. But we go step by step. You know, black folks like to start with the outcome. You know, whatever has all been reached, that was over 100 years, whatever the outcome was, that's what they're going to start from. This doesn't work. You got to actually, in your lifetime, figure out how to go to the beginning.
Right.
And go step by step.
We got 9 minutes.
Okay, well, anyway, before we get out of here,
Well, it's slightly off the subject we were on, but before I came here, I heard something on the radio about Tri-State Bank.
being so,
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it been being sold to adults for like $3 million.
$3 million.
That's,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just like peanuts.
Yeah.
That's
Not the
right.
bank, not the bank.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, the building.
The building,
Building.
the property.
Oh,
The property itself. But it's still like peanuts,
Yeah.
especially on that corner. And I think that right across the street,
like
they-
this one.
they've got
Parking lot.
Belts Enterprises, starting with the apartment building and a bunch of other things. So it fits right into what they're already doing down there. And so it's probably worth a lot more.
Yeah.
It automatically tells you the Tri-State was broke.
Right.
That's what that tells you immediately.
Either
Trust
that,
it,
I
bro.
think, or the other thing you could tell you is they had no vision.
Yeah,
They-
yes.
And that might mean.
But they still got to be
couldn't-
broke.
Couldn't figure out what to do with this
Cause
building.
downtown just coming back. And so
That's what I'm saying.
anybody with any reason
Yeah, exactly.
would
So-
save it now. This be the last thing they won't do is sell it.
And,
That's why I'm
and-
saying no vision.
Right. Even if you are broke.
Yeah.
Even if you are broke.
Or you don't have the wherewithal to get out there and find all of these
Or wait,
investors
you-
that are like all around you.
Cause whatever he gonna do with the
International
property, they
investors.
can do it themselves if they had some sense.
and
So where are they gonna move the headquarters to? They haven't figured that out yet.
Probably
No,
going
the-
down by
He
Mary
probably
came
will
up with,
rent them a place,
you know what she
one
came
of
up
the enterprise
which I
places.
thought was a good thought. They probably go to the Universal Life building,
Probably.
which would make sense.
okay,
Make a lot of sense.
has there been other black-owned banks in Memphis? Or is that
Well,
the
when you
only
said
bank?
black-owned banks in Memphis, not too long ago, Frank Banks and Holyfield and all the, what was the last name, Howard? They had put together a community bank not too long ago, and they wound up selling it not too long ago. So they maintained it about 5 years. And there have been a number of other small banks that have gone in and out of business in Memphis.
Memphis, right?
There are a number of other banks around the country
Yes.
that were owned and operated by so-called black people. You know, I think of one of the main ones that I can think of was in New York, and it was the ball player Jackie Robinson. It was the Jackie Robinson Bank.
Really?
Yeah. And there were a number of other banks. As a matter of fact, I think Frederick Douglass was the president of 3 banks. 3.
Wow.
You know. So, and if we go back and we actually do the research and do the history, we'll find that there was a bank in Mount Bayou that existed. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure they're still in business, but they existed for years.
No.
What?
No, you mean the black bank?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It's not in existence
No,
anymore.
not in years.
Okay. But I'm saying they did exist for quite some time. And there have been banks, people of color all over this country.
See, my thing is I've heard for years to, buy black and.
No. What you're hearing is just a lot of nonsense and bullshit.
Exactly.
Just people talking and having something to say because they want to say something. So they repeat what Claude Anderson or somebody has written, and they say, "Well, see, blacks have they're spending this as much as Canada or some nonsense," and then they just repeat that nonsense like they know what is actually there. They don't know.
Exactly.
They don't know. They just want something to say so they can be in charge of the mumbo jumbo crew.
Yeah,
It don't mean anything.
Right, but going along on that mentality, we don't even have a bank in the city.
That's right. That's
so
right.
how just start there.
So now let's say you want to do something about that.
Right.
Well, then you got to stop talking and start doing the things that you're going to have to do to put a bank together. Just that simple.
Willie Harrington used to own Channel 13. Him and a couple of more Negroes.
Well, that was for a matter of months.
Yeah.
They didn't really own anything. That was just a financial move based on a law that was coming into effect, coming from Congress, that said something about if white folks would help black people to go into the communications business, that they would get a tax write-off. And so they put this TV channel out here in a position where Harrington and a number of other people got together and they bought it. And then they held it for about 2 or 3 months and they sold it to a white boy.
Yes.
Never knew
Had
that.
a profit.
Yeah. So all those old black life matters and black people talking is just a bunch of talk. It's just talk. And until so-called black people get together and start doing what you got to do to learn the basics, and until they're ready to start teaching little ones like Taj, or younger, because whatever we learn from Taj's experience, or from you and your brother's experience, we're supposed to be learning how to translate that to the next crew. So if she could make it to the level that she made it to in years way sooner than the average, and now because of what she and her brother went through, this is why we're able to do what we're doing with Taj. Within everybody working together, we're supposed to push this to the next level, so that in a minute you are responsible for some 2-year-old being in a position to know what you didn't know until you were 15. So that by the time our children are 17 years old, they not only won the Grandmaster chess move, but they have the first PhD degree.